Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kenneth Gamble. I'll be your guide today live at the waterhole. Hopefully, it's going to be a great session. We'll see a few interesting things. Already a great start here at Albania. And please keep your questions coming in. It's a live and interactive show, and hopefully, we can answer them and discover a few things. It was quite funny. Looks like that zebra got a bit of a fright from that elephant's plopping in the water. Certainly another busy afternoon. I must say the water level quite a bit lower than we're used to seeing. It's either a copious amount of water by the elephants, or there might be a bit of an issue with the pump. And that giraffe is obviously also quite thirsty, getting quite close to those illies. The one bull has muscled his way quite straight into the middle of the pond there. And quite a good location to sneak some fresh water out of the inlet. We've got quite a cast of characters today. We had the zebra briefly for a second, and then the elephants, giraffe, gemsbok, of course the notorious elephants. All look like quite nice. Some of the potential, but big. Carry on dominating the water. They are not moving around or leaving shortly. Mr. Elemental, greetings to you too. I must say the weather here in the Lowveld is windy and warm. Yesterday we had quite a heat wave. Certainly, our weather system skipped spring. We went from winter straight to summer. But the rains hit this part of the must say this is one of the first times I've seen the elephant truly and completely dominate Aldonio like this. Aside from that one braid off that decided to get a bit closer, the rest of the animals aren't too keen. But while we leave this elephant dominated waterhole, we're going to go see what's going on at Tembe. Some more elephants, as we can always count on at Tembe. A bit more interesting behavior taking place here. A couple of them rolling in the mud, a few bulls roughhousing. Definitely a good day in for the elephants. They're enjoying the warm tropical weather and making the most to cool down a bit. What signs do you look for to predict an animal's unusual or rare behavior? I think it's obviously a lot of time spent in the bush. You can maybe coming, or you're aware of the possibilities, but at the same time, a lot of the most unusual or rare behavioral sightings that are seen are generally unexpected. It's a lesson that you always need to have your camera near you, and to capture those moments, always be paying attention. You never know what's going to happen. I've myself had a few surprising circumstances pop out, and it's just by continually paying attention that you get to witness them. VC, you'd like to know if these human boreholes or pumped waterholes help tourism? Yeah, certainly they do. Obviously, it's a balance in the management of a reserve, but when it comes to visitors coming to reserves, they often, or they do want to see animals, of course, and large sections of wilderness sections of national parks or reserves need to be kept pristine, so you don't want too much human activity in those areas. And also naturally, there's not always surface water in all these spots throughout the season. So even if there were roads there, tourists would spend a lot of time driving around and not really seeing much. So in this way, in certain spots where it provides year-round game viewing, which is great for tourism. Obviously, no one really wants to visit a game reserve or national park that hasn't got many animals to see. Of course, your purists or your nature enthusiasts will be quite happy. There's always something else to look for, like birds, etc., or trees. But these continual water holes play a big role in obviously supporting the animal population, since they haven't got the ability to move around due to fences, etc., or migrate to other areas. So they do need to be helped a bit in that regard. And yeah, it also allows continual viewing of the animals, which is tourists and animal enthusiasts alike. These elephants are certainly having a grand old here. Sort of a small bath. They're skirting around the fringes now. Elephant in the thick of the mud is a cotton. Appears to be tuskless. I'm not sure if the right hand, but it'd be quite rare if this was bull. They're not very common in nature. It's more often that you come across tuskless cows, and even then that's also quite a rare gene. Likely what's taken place here, probably broken his tusks. But we'll continue watching. It does seem like a bit of a from his lip there, but certainly not a normal occurrence for elephant bulls. Especially in Tembe's part of the world, there's quite strong tusker genetics or large ivory genetics there. It does actually appear like this is a tuskless elephant bull. I must just have a bit of a closer look. It could also be female. It's just throwing me off ever so slightly. I know in my visits to Tembe, I have seen a tuskless bull. I'd be very shocked if it was actually a tuskless bull.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
Would you like to know at what age a buffalo calf gets its horns? These are questions that you can ask me in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive here in the heart of Africa. Join me on Safari Live and connect with nature.
Every month, something wild lands in your inbox. From rare sightings and behind-the-scenes secrets to expert stories, seasonal changes, and exclusive travel opportunities, the Wild Earth Journal is your free monthly mailer, packed with the magic of the wild straight from the field. It's fun, it's free, it's full of surprises. Sign up now on the Wild Earth website.
certainly quite an elephantful Sunday. They are all over the show, interacting, roughhousing a bit. Trying to figure out if they're busy chasing each other around, or there's more elephant coming slowly down to the waterhole. But I think they are just giving each other gears. These two young bulls seem to be having words with each other. You can slightly read his body language with that stiffer tail. He's indicating a bit of displeasure or uncomfort. If you ever find yourself in the company of an elephant and their tails are straight and their heads are raised, you should certainly be very careful and alert. It's a sign that they're not very happy or upset that it's you or something else. Get out. You can see this group entering with quite a bit of excitement or attitude. You can see the wind is swirling quite a bit in timber. You can see the branches of the larger trees shaking there, so it's probably quite a few scents being distributed. But I don't think it's the scent of lion or any other predators that's got them on edge. I think it's just the different groups intermingling and interacting with each other, especially the younger animals. Ivan, you'd like to know why some species named after for other species, such as the hawk eagle, the sparrowhawk, or even the elephant shrew? That's a great question. It's quite an interesting one. It is a funny naming convention. I'd say the simplest way of breaking it down is obviously descriptive shorthand and historical naming that took place. The main thing is resemblance in appearance or behavior that leads to these names. Obviously, in the case of the elephant shrew, you have a shrew that looks a bit almost like an elephant with its elongated snout, and also the way they flex it around, etc. It does look quite like it's got some relation to elephants. They are one of my favorite little animals to watch. I find them quite cute and endearing. They're very entertaining. In the case of your sparrowhawk or your hawk eagle, I fathom that sparrowhawk, it's clearly a small bird of prey like a hawk, and it hunts smaller sparrow-sized birds. And so once again, a similar category. It's quite a large bird of prey, but slimmer, and good reason that someone went along those naming lines to call it the hawk eagle. But I think there's many interesting names out there in nature that are a bit puzzling sometimes. Grey go-away bird is a good example of that. So it's quite interesting. Hence why scientific names always take precedence. There's never any confusion, and if your Latin's quite sharp and you have a bit of a biological or scientific background, it will make a lot of sense to you. Common names can be quite confusing or misleading at times. Base, you'd like to know if elephants prefer the heat or the cold or have no preference. I don't think there's really much of a preference. I think they tolerate either or. I do think, being warm-blooded animals, etc., they are able to tolerate cooler temperatures much more easily than necessarily hot temperatures. Hence why in the middle of the day you'll often find elephants resting up in the shade at a waterhole, like we're seeing at Tembe now, where they're splashing themselves with mud or taking a bath. Obviously the heat can become quite unbearable, especially in some of the more tropical or warmer parts of Africa. When the temperatures start cruising to the 40 degrees Celsius and plus, it's quite brutal. It's not to say the cooler temperatures aren't pleasant for them. It's generally short-lived and it can have an effect on animals. But I think heat stress is a bigger problem compared to colder temperatures. If you look at just South Africa as a case study, the distribution of elephants is throughout the country. You may not necessarily find them today everywhere, but historically they were distributed well throughout South Africa. In the Cape, where it gets quite chilly, you find elephants in the Kalahari regions where it can get very cold in winter. So animals are very adaptable. I think temperatures that are quite tough for us to deal with are obviously a lot more easily dealt with animals, etc.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
Would you like to know the difference between a male and female wildebeest? You can ask me questions like this in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive here in the heart of Africa. Join me on Safari Live and connect with nature.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight. We'll be
And you pretend like you're a serviceman, eh?
Got no idea what's going on this reserve. Expecting the unexpected.
Are we stuck down there?
What am I trying to do?
So we have another giant of Mabula.
That was incredible.
This is unbelievable.
It's going to be a spectacular afternoon.
waterhole, you wouldn't really expect them to get stuck in a waterhole that's got water provided throughout the year. From all our copious amount of elephants to just one last straggler. It seems like he's also moving out. He's had his fair share of mud for the day. He may final sip before heading off into the forest. But well, elephant, we're going to go see Victoria Falls on a Sunday afternoon. Things seem to be quieting down over here. We're going to go see what's going on at Victoria Falls. Oh, that's a fantastic little surprise. Small family of warthogs, also dealing with the heat as best they can. It seems like they've got quite a strategic spot that keeps them safe from the crocodile. Nice and shadow, so they will see any crocodile trying to approach. But they will have mountain. Those manes are not going to be too prominent for much longer. Be coated in water and mud very shortly. Appears like the warthog's having a good scratch on some of those mapani branches there next to the waterhole. Definitely a Sunday spa day for them. Bit of mud treatment and then a bit of good old scratching in the hard to reach places. The lone Impala ram sauntering past there. Seeing from what it appears from the cam, it looks like some haze maybe been put out to supplement a few of the Victoria Falls. You can see it's incredibly dry. There's not much grazing. In these situations, lodges with the permission of the reserve provide a bit of supplementary feeding just to help sustain the game. Obviously in these large open systems, continual pressure with human expansion, the animals do find it hard to find grazing, etc. Sometimes a bit of a helping hand goes a long way in just supporting the population. Obviously also in a system like this, the whole of Victoria is very close to the game reserves are very close to the town of Victoria Falls, so there is already about a fair bit of human interaction taking place, or exposure, which does have an effect on the animal. You could argue it's not a very remote wilderness area that to keep animals as far as possible from humans and keep things natural. See, we've got another 2 dogs having a good mud bath. They looks like they're tan. Black crake foraging on the warthogs, probably looking for any disturbed insects or invertebrates while the warthogs shift on the mud and water. It'd be quite interesting if you hold. Well, I didn't think you'd get much closer. The black crakes can be quite shy birds, but they, of all their crake members in southern Africa, they're probably the most gregarious, or at least worrying when it comes to exposing themselves. As any bird watcher would know, looking for crakes is quite a difficult task, and when you do find one, it elicits a lot of excitement. I've still got a number of crakes I need to try see in my life. I've only seen the African crake and the black crake, so still many years of hard work ahead. Something got those warthogs out. Looks like they're slowly returning. We're gonna go see what's going on at Borneo again. Things are quieting down here. We can certainly always count on Borneo for action and diversity. The elephants don't seem to have changed too much, but I see we've got the eland and the zebra still patiently waiting for their turn. But you can see there's quite a large herd of zebra hanging around at the back here. Suppose you're asking how common black crakes are. They're relatively common, not always necessarily seen. It just depends on the waterhole and the proximity to humans, etc. There's also a waterhole quite near where I stay, where the black crakes continually walk around, compared to other spots where you don't necessarily see them. You just see a flash. But yeah, the black crake is definitely your most common crake in Africa, and I'd probably say also further abroad in Africa they are wouldn't say as shy as they can be shy, but not as shy as their other members of their family. These elephants are certainly quite thirsty today. And we'll leave the elephants to do their thing. We're going to see some vultures getting fed on today, Sunday, live at the waterhole. It seems like the feast is well underway on today's Sunday. These vultures live a life of luxury at Victoria Falls, that's for sure. I always enjoy the constant action. My favorite is when they grab a piece of meat and it almost becomes a tug of war, but it's a circular mobile tug of war as the vultures jump around trying to tear pieces apart. It's certainly quite comical and entertaining for me. You have the ever-present marabou storks waiting from above to steal what scraps they can. With their beaks, they can't really tear any pieces of meat off. They rely completely on the vultures with their sharper beaks. The carcass apart, so they steal what they can that's been loosened. Really always fascinating how quickly the vultures are able to strip the bones. Remember in Kruger Park we saw an impala snake exhaustion, and there were some vultures waiting nearby, and they descended. We watched everything, and I think we came back probably 20 minutes later and there wasn't even much left of that impala. It was completely stripped clean. Brilliant example of cleaners of the bush, as they're known, and the important role they play. Without vultures, it takes many weeks for an animal carcass to decompose naturally and insects to help break it down. So they play an incredibly crucial role in keeping the ecosystem clean. Also, you'd like to know what single misconception about African wildlife fresh as a guide. I think they're almost the same topic. I'd say I think it's the traditional industry that's wild. Considering in the 21st century how advanced we are as humans, and that we have something like this in this day and age, rhino poaching, etc. It's been well researched what the compound is of rhino keratin. It's the same material your fingernails and your hair is made from, but yet rhinos are mercilessly poached. Their supposed traditional medicine benefits, which are to be false, and for status, and I think that's quite disappointing in this day and age. And it's the same for elephants. Their ivory is also poached for status, and it's all this very wasteful and disappointing. And also another example of that, their body parts are harvested, pangolins, etc. So I think I find that frustrating personally as a guide. People should have more compassion for animals and appreciate their place on this planet, and not so foolishly just squander their time with animals, and also understanding their life is just as valuable.
Now this leopard that we're looking at is known by the name of Hlalamba.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
The pun, but it's a lot of meat to get cleaned out. Interesting, there's appears to be an orange object down there near the base of the tree trunk. I don't know if this is the sun reflecting off of it, but all the vultures appear to be pecking at it. Certainly interesting. I wonder if it's got maybe a stomach, but I would have thought they would have been able to tear that open. It does seem like there's some pecking and tearing going at it now. It might be a stomach contents of something. Very interesting. Deb, it's a pleasure. I'm glad you're enjoying it. It's certainly one of my highlights. Vultures have always been one of my favorite birds since I was quite young. I used to get quite excited when we would go to the bush and see vultures flying overhead. Even this week in Hoedspruit we've had some rather warm weather. I think yesterday it was about 40 degrees, but you can see the vultures capitalizing on it. They're just circling, as they like to call it, kettling sometimes, but soaring on the thermals, moving around. It's always quite a stunning sight for me just to see vultures gliding around the landscape, Kruger environment. Always gets me quite excited. I would know what that orangey red object is. It looks hard, but vultures are pecking all over it, and stomach or anything. It looks far too round and hard, but obviously the attention or the interest of the vultures. Just keep an eye on that one. Quite interesting. If anyone else has an idea, please with us. quite funny watching these marabou storks pick up bones from the feeding. You can see they haven't got the ability to really do much with the bones. Quite funny, yeah. Obviously trying to grab what they can, and they're also well aware they can only eat certain items. They're not adapted like the vultures are. Of course, most of your vultures eating pure bone. Your beach makes more of a living off of bone, and it breaks the bones open to get to the bone marrow. It's preferred food. I'm certainly perplexed by that object that has gotten the vulture's attention. But as you can see, our vultures are done with their lunch and heading out. We're going to head over to Rosie's pan. We've got a young elephant and a hippo submerged, disguising themselves as a rock. Just had me for a second, but was often on some occasions. Sometimes the elephants like to the waterhole. I'm sure he doesn't enjoy it very much. It's always if the elephants swim. I don't think in this case this young elephant is really aware of the hippo in the water. You can quite clearly see at many of the waterholes throughout the grip of the dry season is getting a bit tight now. Obviously in situations the plants have got access to water, they're starting to produce green buds, flowers in some cases, but the majority of trees, even in this situation, you can see they're leafless and just waiting for the rains to come, which is still going to be a few more months away. I'm personally quite excited for the summer rain. Migrating birds come from South Africa and this part of the world, and abundant life action. The greenery is stunning, and it's exciting to look. Time on the dry season, if you find yourself a patch of water and you sit and wait patiently, and the birds will come. Same with the elephants. Every waterhole you've been to, some animals bathing, trying to cool themselves off on this hot time of the day. Interesting to see how we saw those hippos' nostrils just appear above the surface just for a breath of air. While hippos are sleeping, they can stay submerged, and they install their muscle memory, or instinctively, while remaining asleep, they can raise their nostrils to the surface for a breath of air and then continue sleeping underwater. It's quite amazing.
Hi everybody, looks like we have just located on a beautiful leopardess known as Clalamba.
Some of you out there are brilliant at identifying hyenas.
Now, why do you think people have got this huge misunderstanding about reptiles?
Right in front of me there was the face of an astounded buffalo bull.
This is live and interactive, so everybody, if you have any questions and comments, please do send them through and let us know what you'd like.
This is quite a congregation. There must be 2 or 3 herds that have come together. I was excited about this though. I think he's a bit under pressure. See how he reacts. Elephant cow. Maybe saw and waits for their departure. Surrounded. I might see something exciting. I haven't. Yeah, my biggest interest is definitely less extent plants and trees. What One thing I'd really like to see at Jackie's. Jackie's is a night heron, but action awaits us. We're going back to Serendela, see what our elephants have got in store. There we go. Elephants are getting deeper and deeper into this waterhole here. Our hippo is certainly quite the trooper. He doesn't actually look very perturbed at all right now. He seems quite comfortable with his friends at the pool. Doesn't seem too bothered. I can imagine this is quite a regular occurrence at this time of year, so he's probably not too bothered, or this is not a new situation. But you can see some of these elephants getting well and truly submerged. Melanistic marble, yeah, you are 100% correct, sorry. It's been unseasonably hot the last while in the Lowveld. Today is a bit better, we're more in the 30 or the low 30s, but yesterday it was almost in the 40s. So, most animals are doing their best to keep cool and beat this heat. I see our hippo's finally thrown in the towel here. He's not enjoying his personal space being encroached on, and he'll probably just wait on the side or near the shallows for everyone to finish their splashing. It certainly looks like the elephants have had quite a good splash. There's a lot of water that's been splashed out. We can see on the left hand side as it's slowly overlapping out a bit from all the action. But what's a good pool party without a few splashes? It's not fun when you just sit there quietly. I think our hippo's breathing quite a large sigh of relief now as the party goes, or moving off and leaving him to have a restful Sunday further. It will be interesting to see if it's one large herd that's moving together. I suspect it's not, but never say never. I have a feeling it's probably two herds that will start to break off now. Anita mentioning she's enjoying the bird sounds. I agree completely. It's certainly one of my favorite soundscapes to just sit and listen to. You see that young elephant being cheeky with the blacksmith lapwing there. Chase them around a bit and throw his weight around. It's always fun when you're bigger. You can certainly feel quite dominant. But if he gets into much trouble, I'm sure he'll be running straight back to mom for help. Certainly appears like how Hippo's trying to work on finding his comfy spot again. Almost looks like he's resting his head a bit on that submerged log. But I can think he had quite a comfy spot until the elephants came down for a drink. But, He's looking settled again and happy. It's always very comical for me watching elephants. They seem to follow a strict schedule. It's drinking time, splashing time, either with water or mud, and then once that's done, it's time for a dust bath, and then maybe a sleep under the tree or shade, followed by this afternoon's foraging activities. It's always quite funny to watch their going-ons, how they stick to their important schedule. Quite a small little baby at the back there, precious. New little member to the world. And just a reminder to everyone, please keep your questions coming in. It's live and interactive as always, and it's great fun to interact. It's also quite comical seeing the elephants change a different shade as they get wet or apply mud in certain spots or sand in other spots. Some of them come out looking a bit like Dalmatians. One thing I always found quite striking in my travels was the elephants in Etosha with that grey soil that is there. The elephants look very grey, almost like grey ghosts that just pop out of the vast pans or plains there. But very striking seeing them in that very grey, almost white dust. Hello G, you'd like to know what is the maximum speed of an elephant? It's around about, I'd say about 25-30 k's an hour. Excuse me, I'll have to do the conversion offhand with a calculator, but roughly about that speed. Maybe even up to about 40 k's an hour. Obviously in a safari vehicle or a vehicle you're more than capable of getting away from an elephant, but on foot you haven't got much of a chance. No human can run that fast. I see that young elephant was being a bit cheeky and feeling brave and wanted to try and intimidate the hippo ever so slightly. I wouldn't say it worked very well. I think that hippo would only really be intimidated by a much bigger animal. Susan mentioning she thinks the hippo's a bit too scared to move. Susan, yeah, I don't know if I'd necessarily call it, to an extent, yeah, it might be fear. A hippo certainly feels safest in water where it can submerge itself. Normally where you get into hairy situations with hippos is when they're on land or they can't get to their safe space of water, or you're between them and the water, and that's normally when you get quite an aggressive response. But yeah, that being said, I think there's a number of reasons why the hippo doesn't want to leave his waterhole. He feels safe where he is at the moment, where he can submerge himself. It's obviously quite hot, so it's not pleasant for him to be out of the water unless he really needs to. So I think he will certainly try to stay in the waterhole as much as he can without the elephants chasing him off. But I also think he's a bit of a veteran to this pool party, and you can see, or he knows when he needs to maybe make some space, but he looks very calm. So if anything, maybe a little irritable with these younger bulls that are intent on harassing him ever so slightly. Like naughty teenagers looking for a bit of a fight. Obviously a large hippo bull like this can defend himself quite easily against a younger elephant. But yeah, it's almost like two worlds colliding, one of land and one of water. I'm sure either side feels safer on their home ground.
Oh, wow. My full name is Cedric Leslie Dold. I grew up mostly in the Lowveld. I grew up here pretty much on the southern side of Kruger National Park, a place called Marloth Park, for most of my years. Something surprising about myself, I did play drums in a band for many years. Best sighting I presented, we found Columba in the two cubs, and the cubs are just way big.
Step into the heart of Africa from the comfort of your home.
Female leopard tracks over here.
Join our expert guides for a live 3-hour safari where every moment is real, unscripted, and unforgettable. Ask questions.
Animals rely on their senses.
Share your thoughts and be part of the experience as we explore together. Safari Live.
Can you hear that? The wild is calling.
Younger kids are feeling boisterous. It's actually quite nice to see some zebras at Serendella, but even the greater Kruger area, not known for its large herd of zebras and the more wooded environments. Zebras tend to thrive on more grassland, open environments. It's quite nice to see them. Ivan, you'd like to know if does soil condition there deteriorate during the dry season, and does it affect the wildlife in any way? Yeah, Ivan, so it can quite a bit. If there's overgrazing, your topsoil is at risk of being blown away, which is never great because that's where the new season seeds are often laying, and the topsoil plays an important role. So a lot of nutrients are in the soil, etc. Without topsoil, there's more just a compacted layer of soil below that seeds cannot easily germinate, or water doesn't really infiltrate easily into it. And at the same time, with the dry soil not having any vegetation on it late in the dry season, when the rains do finally arrive, if it's quite a hard downpour, which you can never predict, a lot of that topsoil is eroded, or a lot of sections of bare soil can be eroded, which leads to dongas, as we call them in South Africa, a bit of a slang word, but that's our official term. But erosion gullies, etc., which goes beyond just washing the topsoil away, but also the subsoil layers, vegetation is washed away, and also the seed bank is washed away. So you can quickly go from having a lot of rain, but then a lot of your area becomes eroded. It's not easy for vegetation to grow there anymore, which has a knock-on effect for the animals, because all that open area needs to be full of vegetation again for the animals to feed on. You'll often see it in some reserves, and we've also seen it on the drives at Sandringham, where they've spoken about some of the erosion control, or how they combat erosion in certain areas to stabilize the soil, make sure that it's not eroded or blown away, and keeping a layer of vegetation growing there. Obviously, at a waterhole, it's quite compact in a way from all the animal movement, etc. So you wouldn't really expect too much erosion, and the water's all kind of, if it does rain, etc., it's heading into one environment. But there's a delicate balance between overgrazing and erosion that need to be carefully managed. Otherwise, the knock-on effects in the ecosystem are quite dire. Just got a few stragglers still hanging about. I'm sure the zebra are patiently waiting. But these all seem to be a few younger males. Hence why they're actually possibly being boisterous and cheeky. They're not really part of the breeding herds anymore. They've been banished. While our elephants meander off, we're going to head over to Tau and see what's going on there. Two elephants doing exactly what all our other elephants have been up to today. Got a large bull on the right hand side and a younger animal at the back there, but also definitely getting a good mud bath on the go here. And the lone Egyptian goose just feeding in the shadows there. Until we see our crocodiles again. I know they were quite busy last week with some amorous activities, but also always easier said than done. Crocodiles are not the easiest to just spot or see. They're quite camouflaged. I've got another elephant bull there. Seems to be scraping around a bit in the dust and rocks. There's a nice big puff of dust there for him. Interesting to note, once they're wet like that, while throwing dust on themselves, they essentially trap a cool layer of air between their skin and that layer of dust that's been thrown on them. So it's almost a prolonged way of keeping the coolness on their skin, and just further helps with temperature regulation. Got some common moorhens there, quite striking with their facial markings. Nice to see them on their daily activities. I say water birding's always been one of my favourite habitats to bird in. I feel like there's, well, aside from all the rare birds that are always looking, it's quite nice to just always see them going about their business. And I must say, at a waterhole there's always bird life or activity. Generally deep in the bush or other habitats it tends to get quite quiet in the warmer temperatures of the middle of the day. There's a waterhole, you're guaranteed to see something going on there. Also got a red-knobbed coot, busy feeding, obviously looking for some vegetation, etc. The moorhens are almost like little speedboats. They come darting past. Got a very sneaky striated heron on the fringe there. I'm looking for some amphibians, fish or whatever he can fit down his throat there. Just slowly cruising there.
Even a hyena coming into the action as well now. Oh my word! She's stalking the hyena now. Leopard, hyena, lion, all together in one shot. Oh. Woo! This is action-packed. My full name is Cedric Leslie Dold. The best driver at Wild Earth, it is me. I believe I'm the best driver. I think so, because I've... best part of my job, I say, is just to try and look out for these animals, track them down. I love tracking animals. I love looking for, you know, fresh tracks, and if you can find them, it's just at the moment of accomplishment. If I wasn't a presenter for Wild Earth, I would be the drummer for AC/DC. Out here, every wild moment counts, and as a Wild Earth explorer, you will not miss out. Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7, and you can even rewind if you have missed out on something. Enjoy the behind-the-scenes video clips, as well as fireside chat, or get the early offers on our travel experiences. It's the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
We have a grey heron, and I can see a crocodile moving about there. It seems like our heron went for a strike, but I don't think he got what he was after. I don't see him swallowing anything. It's certainly scary how those crocodiles pop up and down on those masses of reeds there. Just another example of what apex predators they are. Oh, heron went for another strike, hit and a miss. There's a large crocodile slinking out. Strike 3, and I still don't think he's got what he's after. Didn't really see him swallowing, unless it's something very small that he's catching, but I don't think he caught what he was after. I'll definitely take my hat off to the heron, just considering how the crocodile disappeared out of that morass of vegetation and has disappeared again. Makes you wonder what else is lurking underneath the surface there. This heron is definitely trying his best to grab whatever's swimming there. I can only imagine it's some frogs or some smaller fish, but I think he's taking a bit of a happy-go-lucky approach to it and just hoping he grabs something. Doesn't appear to be too laser focused. And got a crocodile again there. Either moving in for a bit of an ambush location, or looking to see if it can scrounge up any catfish, maybe in the vegetation and the stagnant areas. I did see there was a few birds swooping over it. I'm not sure if they were trying to dive bomb it or anything. Didn't really see what bird it was. This crocodile is certainly on a mission. I only think he's trying to find some fish or some unlucky birds, but I think to catch any wading birds you'd have to find a bit more of a quieter location and wait to ambush them. I don't think any birds are going to fall for this routine at the moment. But oh, there he's disappeared. Just a testament to their hunting prowess. Crocodiles always, well, generally there 1 second and gone the next. And unfortunately, once they're gone, you've got no idea where they have headed to. But therein lies their secret to success. See, we've got a spoonbill there. Was feeding quite close to where the crocodile was. I hope for his sake he's doesn't forget there was a crocodile there moments ago. Oof, the heart palpitations are moving around there, especially in the deepish water. It really looks like the way some of those birds are feeding or moving. They are almost on top of the crocodile. But clearly they're quite perceptive to any danger. Well, we've had some interesting sightings here. We're going to go over to Simbavati, see what's going on there. Another elephant and hippo waiting for us here. Except this hippo's definitely got much more space to work with if he needs to get some peace and quiet from the elephants. Also looking quite dry in the background here. Ari, you'd like to know, spoonbill chicks born with that shaped beak, obviously the spatula beak. So not quite. When they're born, the beak isn't fully shaped with that, or isn't fully shaped to that spoon shape. When they hatch, their bills are quite short and relatively straight, and then as they grow and develop, the beak gradually elongates and flattens at the tip. It slowly develops into that distinctive spoon shape after a few weeks that they're known for. It's quite interesting. One would almost assume that they are born with that beak, as it seems, well, it's such a part of their makeup. See, we've got quite a few more hippos, excuse me, elephants, not hippos. I've seen far too many elephants today that I'm getting my tongue tied a bit, but always wonderful seeing them. Yeah, we've got quite a nice breeding herd coming to drink. It's always a given at this time of day in the dry season. You'll generally find elephants quite close to water. I'm not going to continue feeding and rather cool down a bit and get some water before they carry on with their feeding activities. Elaine, you'd like to know if wading birds and crocodiles ever get caught in the floating vegetation from moonlight at midnight, etc. My answer would be no. It would have to be very strong vegetation, and even then, crocodiles are quite strong animals, so I can't see it really trapping a crocodile. Those tails of theirs are capable of generating massive amounts of thrust in the water. That's how they launch so quickly out and grab animals. So I can't really see them getting stuck. And on the side of the birds, your smaller birds like the moorhens or the jacanas, they tend to be so light, so they're either just on the surface, but they wouldn't really get trapped by it. After all, they can just flap their wings a bit and take off. And your larger waders, etc., once again, I don't think they'd really struggle flapping their way out. I'd be more worried about mud, and even in those cases, they've got the advantage. Also, generally at night, a lot of your birds are not necessarily foraging. They'll be resting up. Your moorhens, your coots, jacanas, etc. will be resting on nests they've got on the water bodies, and your herons will also roost. Of course, the exception to that rule is more your night herons, which actively hunt at night. They're adapted with larger eyes to make the most of the poor light at night, but you also don't really find them bodies of water like that. They tend to stick to rivers or water bodies with overhanging vegetation, where they hunt from the branches that are hanging over the water. That's their way of hunting. Certainly a very idyllic day for the elephants here at the Simbavati waterside. I must say, even though the bush is quite barren and dry at this time of year, it's in a way also got its own beauty, and it's quite idyllic with the drab colours and a few of the trees showing off some greenery or different shades of red and yellows, but everything just seems so peaceful. Obviously, in this case, it also helps if there's a fair bit of water. The animals can keep carrying on. If there's no water, the situation does become quite desperate and sad, and it's quite certainly a case of survival of the fittest. A lot of animals do perish, unfortunately, in those conditions. But for now, everything looks quite peaceful and on the go. It also doesn't, well, predictions are that it will be a normal rainfall season in southern Africa, so fingers crossed for that one. But everything should be as it should be. Well, we're going to leave these elephants to enjoy their drink. Let's go see what's going on at the hide. Well, that's quite a nice Sunday surprise. Got a large herd of wildebeest grazing here. Also a few baboons. But it's quite nice to see the wildebeest in the open plains, enjoying the grass on offer. And they all look quite happy and quite focused on grazing. Don't seem to be too worried about any predators. Very few animals with their heads up taking note of anything, but they do have the upper hand of being in the more open environment at the moment. It's not necessarily too easy for a lion to stalk them unbeknown to them. It has to cross quite a bit of open environment, but never say never. generally wildebeest are on the back foot more in the summer or the wet season, when the grass cover is quite thick, etc. And it does favour the big cats' hunting techniques and allows them to quite easily ambush the zebras in those the wildebeest and the zebras for that in that situation. Generally in the dry season, when things are a bit more sparse, the wildebeest have the upper hand and can generally see the danger approaching from afar. In this situation also, the wildebeest are surrounded by a few baboons. They will gladly sound the alarm call if they detect any lurking lions or leopards. Not often that you really see leopards ever go for a wildebeest. It's not their preferred prey. But it's quite interesting. There was some research I read a few years ago based in the Kruger Park, where they looked at lion populations versus zebra and wildebeest, and in the wetter years the lion population always generally increased, while the zebra and the wildebeest populations tended to take a dive, which is the opposite of what you would think. You would think if there's so much food and grazing available, the herbivores would surely do better. But once again, it correlates to that way that the lions are able to hunt. And then obviously in the dry years, the zebra and wildebeest population was seen to increase, and just counterintuitive, you would think they would do worse off with less food, etc. But animals are tough. They're able to survive the tough conditions. It's not necessarily those conditions that are the limiting factor. It's more their relationship with the predators who prey on them. And I think personally that's one thing I enjoy most about nature. There's so many interesting intricacies taking place that we're not aware of, and there's always something to learn. Looked like we had a bushbuck hop across the dry pan there. Obviously didn't want to spend too much time in the open there. It's what it's designed for. We've got a few elephants as well.
Let's go and take a look. See you out there.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
We are here with a male leopard.
that purpose much better. They are having a great role in the mud there. We actually haven't had very many waterholes today without the elephant in the mud. Everyone's getting ready for summer. I do envy the elephants. I think they're a lot braver than I am. I checked the temperature of my pool the other day and it was still on the low 20 degrees Celsius. I think I'm going to wait a bit of time before I get into my pool. It's not a pleasant swim for me. And it's quite shocking because with the warm temperatures I thought the water would have warmed up a bit, but clearly my pool's not playing ball. But it does always just look very idyllic. Watching the elephants and the warthogs or even the hippos splash around in the water. It's very inviting to go for a dip. But a situation like Tao where a crocodile pops up and all desire of jumping in the water goes out the window. Spaz, you're asking, are there cheetahs and leopards here at Wangi? John's also on the camera, as well as the population of zebra and wildebeest in Wangi. So yeah, there's the lion population. You've got a chance in the it's always funny, lions don't necessarily always come drink in the middle of the day. They'd rather, unless they're lying very close by, you might see them get up and come have a drink, but they'll normally just spend the day lounging about. Leopards, that's always a rare one. That can happen at any time. Always a chance, like it happened this week at Jabulani, but I wouldn't put my money on it. More in the early hours or the late afternoon hours as the sun's setting. And cheetahs are occasional in Wangi, excuse me. There is a population of them, but I don't think there's huge numbers of them. Especially you would expect that with quite a large lion population. It's quite challenging for cheetahs in those circumstances to do well. Lions are very territorial and will kill. And then in the same way you could draw the same conclusion. If you've got a large herd, lion population, there's more than likely sufficient prey source. Cases tends to be zebra and wildebeest. That is a staple food source. That and buffalo, but obviously it's dependent on the size of a pride to hunt a buffalo. But more often than not, zebra and wildebeest make a substantial part of their diet, and as we saw with that large herd of wildebeest, there are large numbers. And zebra and wildebeest is being picky spaces to thrive, the thicker areas. Anita, I'm glad you're enjoying the hide scenes. It's very cool that you live so close to Wangi. I can imagine that's quite a privilege or treat. I haven't been to Wangi for many years. I'd love to go back again. Ken, you'd like to know, are there any common diseases that affect elephants? There's a couple, the main ones being tuberculosis, TB. Anthrax is another one that affects elephants. It's happened a number of times. It's happened in Kruger, it's happened in Etosha National Park. Obviously anthrax spores live very long in the soil, so it can happen at any time, especially when the animal's body is under stress. There's another one called EEHV. It's the elephant endotheliotropic herpes virus. Excuse me, that is a mouthful. But to my knowledge, that's more in Asian elephants. It's not really common in African elephants. It's also not something I've heard of much. I've come across reports of TB and anthrax much more often. And then obviously foot and nail problems, that can range from freak accidents, stepping on a very sharp piece of bark, a tree, etc., or a snare injury. But yeah, as far as diseases are concerned, I would chalk up tuberculosis and anthrax being the main problems. Occasionally also there's parasitic diseases that can affect them, but that's what separates the strong and healthy animals from the rest.
This is an unbelievable afternoon.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight. We'll be
And you pretend like you're a serviceman, eh?
Got no idea what's going on in this reserve.
Expecting the unexpected.
Are we stuck down there?
What am I trying to do?
Because we have another giant of Mabula.
That was incredible.
This is unbelievable.
It's going to be a spectacular afternoon.
If you love watching Wild Earth, here's a little tip. You'll gain access to the channel ad-free. You can rewind and rewatch sightings and gain access to our live Tuesday safaris. There's also behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and every safari live episode, whenever it suits you. It's just the best way to connect with nature.
I know there's been extensive research on the topic trying to decipher what certain sounds or certain vibrations mean. Trumpets can range from anger, excitement, also quite high-pitched screams or squeals. Yeah, it can vary. Sometimes it's a sign of excitement or fear and anger. I know normally when you hear it, it certainly gets your attention. But yeah, once again, thank you to everyone for joining live at the waterhole. Hope it's been a pleasant session for you and a pleasant Sunday. Hope you have a pleasant Sunday further and enjoy this afternoon's drive. It's really been a impactful day filled with elephants. Also had some nice birding, very relaxing. Well, looking forward to the next session. You see the elephants are slowly milling about, finishing up their mud bath. Everyone's getting a coating of dust to keep those body temperatures down while they head out deeper into the bush again. So quite interesting. I quickly did some reading as far as the different audio communication of elephants, etc. Elephants from different areas almost have a dialect unique to their region. They use different calls or call cycles, etc. And yeah, so essentially it's one language, but it's just interesting to note that elephants also have dialects much like us. But once again, thanks everyone. It's been a wonderful Sunday and a great session. I hope you have a great day further, and we'll see you again soon.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Mabula Private Game Reserve. Cam and I have been searching for this female